بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Merciful, the Compassionate. All praises to Allah, the Creator of the universes and their Sustainer, the Provider of believers and unbelievers. And may His choicest blessings be on the seal of His prophets, the last of His messengers and His holy progeny. And in particular, may His unceasing blessings flow on that immediate successor to the Holy Prophet, on Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. We have reached a stage when we were discussing the 38th year after the Hijrah, and tonight I thought we take a pause and consider the various qualities and excellences of Hazrat Amir alayhi salam. Shaykh Abbas Kummi in Muntaha al-Amal sets out 14 of such excellences of Hazrat Amir alayhi salam, a great many of which we have already considered and on which I will not detain you tonight. But the first of these is the excellence of Imam Ali alayhi salam in the various holy wars, in the jihads. Each one of them was important in its own respect. Can you imagine whether we would have had Islam today if Badr was lost? It is clear, as we have already discussed, that Badr was won because of the outstanding contribution of Imam Ali alayhi salam in that battle. If that was missing, and Allah had not favored Imam Ali alayhi salam with the kind of contribution he made, indeed, he killed half the people who were killed in that battle, then what would the face of Islam be on this earth, if at all? Indeed, Badr was fought by the Makkans in order to annihilate Islam, and there was no secret about it. What would have happened in Uhud if Imam Ali alayhi salam had not come to the help of the Holy Prophet, averting evil from him, harm from him every time the enemy wanted to attack him? And what would have happened in Khandaq if nobody really came out to fight Amr bin Abdawad? As we have already discussed, the situation according to Tabari was such that it was as though birds were sitting on the heads of the Muslims, that they couldn't even stir lest the birds should fly away. Now if that situation had prevailed, and Amr bin Abdawad had succeeded, then what would the fate of Islam have been? And indeed, if Marhab had succeeded in Khaybar, then what? So in each of these battles, the contribution of Imam Ali alayhi salam had peculiar and unique contribution which results in the survival of Islam today. And that is why one finds that when the Holy Prophet talks about Imam Ali alayhi salam, he talks about him in such lofty terms, in such glowing words, appreciating exactly the extent and depth of the contribution of Imam Ali alayhi salam to the cause of Islam. That then is on the question of jihad. The second excellence he mentions is knowledge. And what do I need to say on knowledge? When the Holy Prophet so categorically said, and this is accepted by all historians, that Ana Madinatul Ilm wa Aliyun Babuha, I am the city of knowledge and Ali is his gateway. In other words, a very well-known hadith on which I do not want to detain you, safe to mention this, that it is then clear that if one wants that knowledge, if one wants to enter that city, one has got to go through Ali. That is a matter that should not be forgotten. If Ali is set aside, whether to the second place or the fourth place or any place at all, and removed, that much further does one get from knowledge. Because the only gateway towards knowledge is, according to the Holy Prophet himself, Imam Ali alayhi salam. And indeed, all through his life, one finds that he has given knowledge. He has never had to receive knowledge. He has always shared his knowledge. He has always participated in extending his knowledge to various people. And knowledge not only on religious aspects, but on political matters and other matters as well. I will only cite two instances and proceed. One in the time of Abu Bakr, one in the time of Umar. In the time of Abu Bakr, a leading rabbi, Jewish rabbi, presents himself to Abu Bakr and says, you are the Khalif after the Holy Prophet. A wasi of the Prophet is supposed to be a highly knowledgeable person, usually the most knowledgeable person in the community. I have a problem with Islam which I would like to discuss with you. And Abu Bakr says, yes, ask me what is bothering you. He says, tell me, where is God at this point in time? And Abu Bakr says, God is on his throne in heaven, on Arsh. So this rabbi immediately says, well then, if that is the case, am I right that he is not on earth? That the earth at this point in time is without him. And the earth is operating at this point in time without him at all. Now Abu Bakr found that a little entwingling. And he immediately said to him, look, that is what the atheists believe. And you appear to be one of those atheists. Get out from here, otherwise I'll have you killed as an atheist. And the fellow does get out immediately. He wants to secure his safety. And as he goes out, he meets Imam Ali alayhi salam on the way. And Imam Ali alayhi salam stops him and says, oh Rabbi, I have heard what passed between you and the Khalif. Let me explain the position to you. Allah is not an entity that has a where or a when. He is omnipresent. He is everywhere at the same time. So He is in heaven and on earth at the same time. And He is not confined to any particular place, nor is He confined to any particular purpose. He is all-embracing, fulfilling all purposes in all places at the same time. That is the difference between God and a human, because He is not confined, He is not restricted. And this rabbi says, can you explain that a little further to me? Imam Ali alayhi salam immediately says, yes, and I will explain it to you from what is contained in your books. That is Ali. I'll explain to you from what is contained in your books, because then you will be able to understand the situation so much easier. And the rabbi says, yes, do proceed. And he says, haven't you heard of that instance when in your books, contained in your books, that Moses, Nabi Musa alayhi salam, was sitting at a place, and suddenly an angel comes to him from the east, and Nabi Musa says, O angel of Allah, where are you coming from? And he says, I'm coming from Allah, the mighty and high, subhanallah wa ta'ala. And as Nabi Musa entertains him, another angel comes from the west. And Nabi Musa asks him, O angel of Allah, where do you come from? And he says, I'm coming from Allah, subhanallah wa ta'ala. And just as he says that, a third angel descends and says, Oh Nabi Musa, I am coming from the seventh heaven, from the company of subhanallah wa ta'ala. And Nabi Musa is now surrounded by angels from Allah. And in the breath of the time, a fourth angel descends and says, Oh Nabi Musa, I come from the seventh firmament, and I come from subhanallah wa ta'ala. So Nabi Musa says, yes indeed, that is the quality of my Rabb, that is the quality of my Allah, that those in the east are with him, those in the west are with him, those in the firmaments, in the arsh are with him, those in the heavens are with him, and we on earth are with him. And the rabbi says, Ya Ali, you have exactly given me the answer to the question that I wanted. You have satisfied me beyond belief. All I would like to say, however, is that you are far more entitled to be on the seat that is being occupied by the Khalif of the time. Imam Ali alayhi salam left him alone. But that was the extent of his knowledge with which he proceeded. But such knowledge was not confined, as I have been at pains to emphasize, to religious knowledge only, to, for example, as we just discussed, the concept of Tawheed. Once information was received by Umar bin Khattab when he was the Khalif, that foreigners living in various Islamic parts are conniving against the Commonwealth. Foreigners in Rai, in Isfahan, in Hamadan, in Qumuz, in Nawhadan, are all conspiring to attack Medina. A letter was sent out saying, these Muslims, the way they have besieged us here, will continue to do so, and will bring in more forces if we allow them to continue in this way. Hence, the answer is that we attack them. We take a force and attack them straight away. Once this information was leaked to the Muslims in those places, they sent information to the Khalif immediately, saying this is what these foreigners are planning against the Muslim Commonwealth. The Khalif could not resolve the matter on his own immediately. So he convened a meeting in the masjid and asked the people for their opinion. Talha stood up and said, you are an experienced person, you've lived with the Holy Prophet, you can take a decision on this matter. Uthman bin Affan stood up and spoke in the same vein. Statements that were not helpful to the Khalif. He sought more help and invited Imam Ali alayhi salam to speak, and he was promptly addressing the gathering, saying that if you move against these people severally now to contain them, you will only cause greater problems for yourself. If, for example, you send an army from Syria to attack them, then the Byzantines around Syria will attack the children and family of the Muslims in Syria. So what they want to achieve will be achieved in an indirect way. On the other hand, if you send an army from Yemen, the Abyssinians will attack the children and family of Muslims in those parts. And again, there will be problems. These therefore are not solutions. What I suggest you should do is divide the army that we have in Basra into three parts. One part should be contained locally, so that at all times they are in Basra. And if these insurgents come to Basra, they are able to deal with them. The children and the families of the Muslims remain fully protected at all times. Another group must remain in Basra to protect the city from any attack. And a third group, as a vanguard group, must be sent out. And that group must attack these foreigners in those places and join hands with troops we already have in those places, We do not need an entire battalion there because we have troops. We need reinforcement. They can provide reinforcement while there is certainty and assurance that if these people go round them and attack Basra or attack any other city, there is sufficient force there. Umar says that is the advice I would like to follow and proceed with it. Whenever Islam was in jeopardy, and we will keep seeing this as we have been in all these sittings, Imam Ali alayhi salam proffered help entirely out of his knowledge of the various situations and his knowledge not only of religious matters but political acumen. Such was the depth and extent of his knowledge that he was able to announce, Saluni, Saluni, qabla an tafqaduni. That was the level of the personality. And he did so on 2 occasions. He did so in a number of occasions, but the initial ones came twice. The first time one finds this said is immediately he's made the Khalif. In the first khutbah he delivered after he was the Khalif, he made this declaration to the people so that his knowledge is not deprived to his people. And when he returns to Allah, because that is his only concern, his accountability to Allah, when he returns to Allah, he is not criticized by Allah for not having dispensed his knowledge. But all he as a human could do was to offer that knowledge. And in that first khutbah, it is so interesting to see the extent of his knowledge that he claimed. And 2 things of significance are these: that he did not make these claims in a lane or in a byway of Medina. He makes the claim in the mosque, where an utterance is an oath. Where an utterance is an oath. So he was almost swearing what he was saying. And secondly, he was saying it on the pulpit of the Holy Prophet himself, sitting in the place of the Holy Prophet himself. He said, "O people, if the cushion of a judge were to be unfolded for me, then I would decide for those who follow the Torah by their Torah, for those who follow the Gospels by their Gospels, for those who follow their Psalms from the Psalms, and those who follow the Furqan from their Furqan. And such would be my judgment from these books, that the books themselves on the day of judgment would turn and say to Allah, "Oh Allah, Ali did justice to what was contained in our books." Humans will falter. Egoism comes in, favoritism comes in, jealousies come in. But the books that are the repository of divine revelations, Hazrat Ali says, will themselves bear testimony on that day. Because that will be a day when things will speak for themselves, and so will the book. Not the book, all the books. But one can see the depth of his knowledge of all these books to be able to make a claim of that nature. And that is why, before I said this, I preceded and prefaced what I said with the example of how he dealt with that Jew from what is contained in the Torah on Tawheed of Allah subhanallah wa ta'ala. And then in that very khutbah, he proceeds to say, Saluni, Saluni, ask me before I go, and before I disappear from you, because I am able to tell you about each verse in the Holy Quran. I am able to tell you when it was revealed. I am able to tell you for what purpose it was revealed. I am able to tell you the abrogating verses and the abrogated verses, the clear, manifest verses, the ambiguous verses. Indeed, I am able to tell you what is the interpretation of each verse that was revealed. That was the claim that Imam Ali alayhi salam made. It is unfortunate for the Muslim society that claim was not taken up, and he was not called upon to prepare, or if he did prepare, to submit a full commentary on the Holy Quran. But another occasion on which he mentioned this particular claim was in Kufa, in the mosque again, not, as I say, in a lane of Kufa, sitting on the pulpit in Masjid al-Kufa, in which inshallah you have seen and appreciate the significance of sitting in that mosque, he made that claim. And there he put it differently. That is contained in Nahj al-Balagha as a result. He said, Saluni, Saluni, qabla an tafqiduni. Ask me now. Do not delay asking me before you miss me, because I know the paths of the heavens better than the paths of the earth. And ask me before misfortunes overtake us, and even this nose string is affected, and the wits of men are lost. I complete that sentence for this reason, that there are those who, in order again to detract from the value of what Imam Ali alayhi salam said, have given their own gloss on the interpretation of those words and say that yes, he did say, ask me. But when he said that I know the roots of the heavens better than the roots of the earth, on the earth, the parts of the heavens better than the parts of the earth, he was not really talking physically about those roots or parts, nor was he talking about the knowledge of the hereafter. He was only talking idiomatically or metaphorically. If that were so, how is that interpretation to be made consistent with what follows? That ask me before misfortunes fall upon you, and before man even loses his wits. It is clear that that reference to those misfortunes is connected to his knowledge of various paths that man should follow. Not only paths of this world, but the paths of the worlds to come. Not only the paths of the Aradeen, of the various earths, but the paths of various heavens. What wonder that he should have said so. Because the world saw, and there is abundant evidence of this in Sunnite sources also, one occasion of which I have already cited to you, of how even the sun came back so that Ali says his prayers. Is there any doubt now that he knew the paths of the heavens perhaps better than the paths of the earth? But that was the bold claim he made, and never since then has been a person who has been able to make that claim with confidence. Suffice to say that much only to establish the extent and depth of Imam Ali alayhi salam's knowledge, and suffice it to show and establish why he is the gateway to knowledge. People who thought they could compare themselves with Imam Ali alayhi salam did make efforts to use that expression. Each one of them was brought to shame and humiliation in no time at all. A leading example that is cited is that of Muqatil bin Sulaiman, and on pilgrimage he used these words that Imam Ali alayhi salam used, and a person immediately stood up and said, who is the person who we just going to Mina to shave our heads? Adam made a pilgrimage. Who is the person who shaved Adam's head? He was unable to reply. And all he said was, indeed, you have been made to ask this question by Allah so that I am humiliated. That is all that he said. And one finds this repeated again and again. One finds, well, not again and again, that might be, but in 4 or 5 instances. Another instance is that of Ibrahim bin Hisham. He made a similar claim. When he made a similar claim, he was asked that if in a state of ihram a person kills a bug, what is the penalty for it? And he was unable to say. He was unable to say that at all. Shafi'i, the Imam of a major Sunnite sect, once made a similar claim. He said, ask me any question you want to, and I will reply you from the Quran and Hadith. And immediately somebody stood up and said that if I commit a breach in the course of ihram, what is the penalty I should pay? And he was not able to answer that either from Quran or from Hadith. And not only is this deficiency manifested in the case of Shafi'i, one finds in history Abu Hanifa, again the leader of a leading Sunnite sect, falling into the same trap. He heard Qatada make a claim in similar vein, and when Qatada made a claim in that vein, he invited somebody to stand up and ask. The Naml, the ant, who is mentioned in the account of Nabi Sulaiman, was that ant a male or a female? And this man was not able to answer it. He said, no, you have been sent here only to humiliate me. And the fellow said, but tell me, was it a male or a female? He said, I can't tell you. Then people turned to Abu Hanifa and said, you tell us, was it a male or a female? And he said it was a female. So they said, why do you say that? He said, only because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala narrating it does not say qala naml, says qalat naml. And that indicates that that was a feminine. But that is not correct either. Because naml is neutral. It can be a male or a female. And in that state, that word when used, naml, takes a feminine form in Arabic grammar, and it becomes qalat. So the fact that Allah uses qalat is not indicative of the gender at all. But that is how they were soon made to realize that that was a claim unique to Ali alayhi salam. Ibn Junayd, he made a similar claim. And when he made a claim, a lady stood up in his audience and said, oh Ibn Junayd, when Salman died, and I hope we will have a few minutes to talk about that just briefly this evening. When Salman died, Imam Ali alayhi salam moved to Madain in a twinkling of an eye, gave him ghusl and buried him that very night. Is that correct? And Ibn Junayd said, yes, that is correct. Now that's a miracle by Imam Ali alayhi salam. And that is why he is called Tawil Ard, one who contracts earth to be able to cover vast distances in a small space of time. Well, she then asks, is it also correct that when Uthman died, the third Khalif, he was not buried for 3 days? And at that time, Amir al-Mu'mineen was in Medina. And Ibn Junayd says, yes, that is also absolutely correct. He was in Medina and Uthman was not buried for 3 days. So she says, well, what is the logic of this? He buries one so quickly and does not bury the other for 3 days. Where is the logic of this? He says, you are out here to humiliate me. If you have come out of your house to be here for that reason, and you have come without your husband's consent, then woe unto you. And if you have come out to behave like this here with your husband's consent, then woe unto him. So the lady stands up and says, Ibn Junayd, I have heard about these woes you are talking about. But tell me, in which of the two categories does Aisha fall when she went out to Jamal? That altercation ended there. He gets that position, who deserves to get that position in the eyes of subhanallah wa ta'ala. Hence one finds that this claim of Saluni, ask me, is a claim peculiar to him. But I say to the youths, whenever I have an opportunity to do so, and I do not want to miss it tonight, that claim of Imam Ali alayhi salam of Saluni was not so long as he was physically alive. It applies even today. For he is not dead. Quran says, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا. Those who have died in the path of Allah, don't even imagine. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ, don't even imagine that they are dead. They are alive. بَلْ أَحْيَاهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. And they receive sustenance from their Allah. One finds that Ali is alive even today and answers questions even today. If time permits, tomorrow night, insha'Allah, we shall discuss how he provides even today. But talking of ilm, in 1996 I set out to you an episode of Ahmad Ardabili, that giant of our scholar. And I will not take you into the depths of it, save to say that he was troubled by a question. And when troubled by a question, after midnight he moves out of his house, goes to the gates of the shrine in Najaf. The shrine is of course locked. All he does, he stands and says, Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. My salutation to you, O Commander of the Faithful. And the lock drops. The gates open. Ahmad Ardabili enters the shrine. A student of his, Ibrahim, saying that at that time of night, his tutor, his master, has come out and is going to the haram, decided he wants to know what this giant of his scholar is doing at this time. He knew something will happen if Ahmad Ardabili has set out at this time. He follows him quietly. He reports that as he entered, I also wanted stealthily to enter, but as I got there, the gates closed. The gates closed. They opened for those, only for him who was meant to enter. But he said, in that crack between the two doorways, I placed my ears and I could hear a conversation going on. I of course identified the voice of my tutor. I could not identify the other voice. I could only imagine it is Mawla speaking himself. And then a time comes when he suddenly sees the doors opening and he runs away because he did not want to be noticed. And Ahmad Ardabili comes out. Having come out, he turns back towards the shrine, as we all do, to make this last salutation before he leaves, and the gates close and the padlock locks itself. This is but one instance, because the clock does not allow us to proceed. How many instances exist of how Hazrat Amir alayhi salam, that the problem between Sheikh Tusi and Sayyid ibn Tawus was solved by Imam Ali alayhi salam, was solved by him. Into how many instances can we go at this stage? That claim of his Saluni applies even today. And even today, if we ask him, his answers will be forthcoming. Although he is also known to have said, go and ask the Imam of your time. He will answer you as well. But manifestations of such knowledge become very apparent to us in the various judgments that he delivered. A leading one is a mathematical computation, which is very well known, and a number of you might already have heard it, but for those youths who haven't, I do wish to arouse their interest to tell them that incident in just a matter of a few minutes. Two travelers were traveling together. Time came for lunch, so they stopped. One produced 3 loaves of bread, the other produced 5. So there are now 8 loaves of bread. Another stranger passes by. They invite him to join them. So he also sits and partakes in those loaves. All having eaten, as the stranger leaves and bids them goodbye, he leaves 8 dirhams with them. So, the one who brought 5 loaves said, fine, I will brought 5 loaves, I'll take 5 dirhams, you take 3 dirhams. The other fellow says, no, that's not fair. He ate with us, we should either divide it equally, in which case I get 4 dirhams and you get 4, or I get 5 dirhams and you get 3, for which he had no logic at all. So they disagreed on that and went to Amir al-Mu'mineen. When they went there, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam immediately said to them, look, this is not a matter on which you should argue. It's not a matter on which you should have discussions. Settlement is the best course. Indeed, I dare say, settlement, as was advised by Hazrat Amir, is the best course in any case, in any piece of litigation, even today, let alone in those days. But this fellow says, no, Hazrat Amir, I would like a decision on this point from you today, because I feel this is not fair, and the least I should get is half of it. Hazrat Amir says, look, if you do want a decision, then the fair judgment is that you should get only 1 dirham, and this companion of yours should get 7. So this man gets a shock. Does not dare say, how come? Because he's talking to Hazrat Amir, whose knowledge was well known to those who appreciated him. So he immediately turns around and says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, can you explain me on what basis I deserve only 1, only so that I know on what basis this decision is reached for my knowledge. That decision must be just, I have no doubt, but for my knowledge and satisfaction. And Hazrat Amir said, look, You brought in 3 loaves, the other fellow brought in 5. 3 of you ate. So, if you multiply, if you say that 3 people ate from each loaf, and you must say that because you don't know who ate how much, do you? He says no. So Hazrat Amir says that if we do not know who of you 3 ate how much, equitably, we must proceed on the basis that all ate equally. Hence, you must multiply each loaf into 3. So there were 24 portions. Now, of the 24 portions, yours were 3 loaves. So your portions were 9 portions. And if there were 24 in all and each ate equally, you ate 8 portions. So out of your 9 portions, you have already eaten 8 portions. You are only left with 1. That is your dirham. The other fellow produced 5 loaves. So he produced 15 portions. He ate away 8, yes. But it appears that the traveler ate his 7 portions and he should get 7. But you can see the acumen with which that judgment was delivered on the spot. It was not reserved for a week or 2. It was delivered on the spot because that sense of justice was so deep in him. And one finds books, not chapters. One finds books written on the judgments in this way delivered by Imam Ali alayhi salam. A very well known incident from the angle of forensic science is that when he was once in Kufa, a case was brought to him by brothers of a sister who they alleged had committed fornication or adultery. Synonymous in Islam anyway, zina. Imam Ali alayhi salam in Kufa, and may Allah make it possible for us all to go back to Kufa and visit that glorious mosque and this glorious place. He had a special place, Daqqatul Qadha, where he would, the platform of judgments, where he would sit and dispense decisions. But that place is now also known as Baytul Tasht, the place where the huge bowl was brought. And it was brought in these circumstances. The brothers come to him and say, suddenly we find that our sister appears to be pregnant. She is not married, and we do not find this acceptable, so we want your decision on the point. Hazrat Amir alayhi salam says, very well, let a curtain be drawn, and let this lady firstly be examined by midwives. And midwives, not one, midwives were brought. She was examined, and midwives came back and said, yes, we have examined, there certainly is a child in her womb. And she is pregnant. Having heard that, Imam Ali alayhi salam says, very well, now bring a big bowl, and in that bowl fill mud to the top. When that was done, he ordered that the lady be asked to sit in that bowl. The position in reality was that once when she was swimming or she was in water, a worm entered into her womb. That worm started sucking blood. And as the worm started sucking blood, the worm grew in the womb. And as the worm grew and continued to take food from the mother as a child would, an appearance arose that there was a child in the womb of this lady. As months progressed, the lady grew bigger and bigger because the worm grew bigger and bigger, and she presented a real semblance of being pregnant. The moment she was put in the bowl of mud, what attracts worms most is the mud, and getting the fragrance, the scent of the mud, the worm quickly got out of the womb and swam into the mud. Soon the lady began to recoup herself and become what she was. Imam Ali alayhi salam turns around to them and says, now examine this lady and what do you have to say? And they get perplexed to see that she is not pregnant anymore. And Imam Ali alayhi salam explains to them exactly what the situation was and how was it that she appeared to be pregnant when in fact she wasn't. You can see how innocent life was saved in that way. And there is another example of how that happened. An innocent life being saved. A lady gets married to an elderly person. And because he was elderly, he was naturally rather weak. And it so happened that Soon after she got pregnant by this man, the man almost instantly died. This is the course of nature. The lady gave birth to the child. When the lady gave birth to the child, the other son, by the other mothers, said, "Oh, this is not the child of our father," obviously for inheritance reasons, and said that this lady has committed fornication, this is not the child of our father, and hence we are not accepting her. Those were not the days of DNAs as yet. Imam Ali could have applied a DNA, but how does he explain that judgment to the people? Because we have seen that justice must not only be done, it must manifestly be seen to be done. And that is not a principle man evolved in the 21st century. Imam Ali alayhi salam applied that principle in his administration of justice at the time when he was the Caliph. And is contained in his writings, and is contained in the letter that he wrote to Malik Ashtar. So how does he demonstrate that? When this case is brought over to him, it was not actually brought over to him. This is an incident that occurred in the time of the Caliph Umar bin Khattab. And when this case was brought before Umar, Umar decided, well, this is the evidence, these are the witnesses, and hence this lady has committed zina, and the divine punishment should be meted out to her. Severe punishment on adultery, as you know, that she should be whipped. Well, the lady immediately comes out and goes. Imam Ali alayhi salam was sitting there, so she immediately goes to Imam Ali and says, "This is not correct, I am innocent." So Imam Ali alayhi salam says to Umar, "Oh Umar, is it possible that this case be adjourned to such and such a date?" And Umar says, respecting the knowledge of Imam Ali, because he had repeated experiences of this nature, he says, "Yes, Abul Hasan, if you say so, I will adjourn the case to a date appointed by you." On the appointed day, Imam Ali alayhi salam now brings other little children also, of the same age that this particular child was. And when the Caliph is sitting there, and the court is sitting, he says to this child, "Go and mix with these other children." They do. And he suddenly says to these children, "Stand up." They all stood up. And he said, "Sit down." So they all sit down. And he says, "Stand up." And they all stood up, only twice or thrice. And he turns to the Caliph and says, "Look, all these boys, when they stand up on their own. But when this little child stands up, he is not able to stand up on his own. He needs support. He keeps his hand on the ground. And with his support from his hand, only then is he able to stand up. And he has done this repeatedly." Umar says, "Yes, Abul Hasan, I would not have noticed it but for the fact that you pointed it out. But truly that is the position." And Imam Ali says, "Oh Umar, that is because he is the weak child of a weak father. The nutfa of the father was weak because he was elderly. Hence this is truly the child of that same father, and this lady is not guilty of zina. Not only should he be recognized as a legitimate son of his father, he should receive a share in the inheritance of the father." One can see this happen again and again at the hands of Imam Ali alayhi salam. A well-known, interesting episode, even from the legalistic angle, is this: in the time of Caliph Umar, a person brings a case saying, "This person has killed my son with a sword," and brings witnesses. So a decision is taken that this person should be executed by 2 swords on him. So he is given 2 strokes of the sword. And although he was given the 2 strokes of the sword, and the executioner thought he was dead, in fact there was still some life remaining in him. So the father said, "Look, I can see some life in my child." Immediately took him away, called doctors, treated him, and in 6 months' time this man becomes well. He becomes well and starts moving around again. The father of the youth who was killed goes back to Umar and says, "That man is still alive, you killed him." Umar says, "Bring him." So he is brought into the court. When he is brought to the court, Umar says, "Yes, how come you are alive? We killed you. We put 2 strokes on you." So the father of the fellow explains to Umar that this is what happened. There was some life left in him. I treated him and he is now well. And Umar says, this won't do. This won't do. You must die and we'll kill you again. So, the father says, but will you kill him the second time? And Umar says, well, he was to be killed. He can't remain alive. So, Imam Ali alayhi salam is called by the father. Comes into the court, listens to the facts and says, he is not the Khalif, says to Umar, what is your view in the matter? And the Khalif says, Ya Abul Hassan, if you have a view to express, I have, as always, am very keen and ready to listen to what your view is. And Imam Ali turns around and says, no, you cannot kill him just like that. So the father of the youth who was killed turns around and says, oh, so does it mean that the blood of my son was in vain? Does it mean that that previous judgment was invalid? Is that not to be executed? And Imam Ali says, no, neither should your son's blood be allowed to flow in vain, nor should the previous judgment be considered invalid, nor should execution of that judgment be obviated in law, because the Sharia must take its course. But there is a supervening event. It is this, that when he was to be killed the first time, when the execution took place, he did not die. So it was inchoate, it was incomplete. And therefore that act of trying to kill him must be treated as invalid. Because unless you say that that act was invalid, how will you kill him again? He can't be killed twice. He can't be punished twice for the same offense. Salutary rule that is applicable even today, that no person should be punished twice for the same offense. You can see these glorious laws emanating from Imam Ali alayhi salam centuries ago. He says you can't punish him twice for the same offense. So the father says, what is the solution to this? If you say the judgment is valid, the execution was invalid, what is the answer to this? And Imam Ali alayhi salam says the answer is easy. Because that execution was invalid, he is entitled to qisas, to revenge for it. So, you should be given 2 strokes by the sword, because that would be the qisas for those 2 strokes he got. And when that is done, then he will be killed with a proper stroke, and he will die as a qisas for killing your son. Then both are looked after. He got those 2 strokes unlawfully, improperly, he gets his qisas. Your son was killed, you get your qisas. He turns to Hazrat Amir and says, I am prepared to forgive this man. I do not want those 2 strokes. He can go, provided he agrees that I should not receive those 2 strokes. But one can see the legalities in which he operated, the system of justice that he enunciated and continued with in a fantastic way. And just to conclude that bit with one more example, Imam Ali alayhi salam was once faced with a situation again in the time of Umar, in which a mother disowns a child after a good while. Disowns the child, says, this child is not mine. When the mother disowns the child, she goes to the Caliph and says, this is not my child, and brings the other relatives to prove that this child is not her child. I'm only citing this as a reverse of the example I cited, in which the mother was claiming the child to be hers. The others were saying the child was not hers, and Imam Ali alayhi salam proved the child was hers. I'm only trying now to prove how Imam Ali alayhi salam dealt with a reverse situation. Here, the mother disowns the child. So the child comes to the Caliph and says, I am truly the son of this lady, and my father has died. I am entitled to inheritance, and I am now being shut out. My mother says, I am not a true son. And the Caliph says, well, if the mother comes and gives evidence, as she did, and everybody gave evidence, you are not the child. Again, he approaches Imam Ali alayhi salam, who seeks to intervene in the case. And the Caliph allows him. He, having heard the case de novo, afresh, he turns round, he says, the judgment is that if that is the situation, then I order that this boy, under the order of the state, be married to you. He's not your son. Be married to you I fix the mahar of 400, immediately tells Kambar, go and bring 400 dirhams. I will supply the 400 dirhams and you are to be married. And the lady instantly stands up and says, Ya Ali, he is my son, I can't get married to him. Human psychology played at its best. At its best. But Imam Ali alayhi salam, in establishing the sense of justice to others, practiced it himself at a time when a Jew stole his saddle. Imam Ali alayhi salam wanted to recover that saddle, and he was the Khalif then. But as I have said repeatedly, Imam Ali alayhi salam never took the law in his own hands. Everybody was allowed to speak to him. The different points of view were presented and were allowed to be presented, so that the just administration of the state is felt by the people as a whole. And this, when this occurred, he goes to the Qadi and lays a claim against this Jew. The Jew is brought to court. He is told, the allegation is that you have stolen the saddle of Ali. And he says, no, I haven't stolen, this is my saddle. So the Qadi says, what proof do you have that it's your saddle? He says, but I don't have to prove. It's so unfair that lawyers today are being criticized for being technical. This person says to the Qadi, I don't have to prove. Ali is the claimant, he has to prove. Let him prove that it is his. And it so happened that Imam Ali alayhi salam did not have the receipt for that saddle with him then. So he says to the Qadi, I will swear by Allah that the saddle is mine. The Qadi says, yes, I will accept that as sufficient proof. So this man says, I will swear by the Torah that the saddle is mine. Qadi now is concerned. He doesn't know what to do. And Imam Ali instantly tells him, oh Qadi Shureh, decide according to what is fair. We are equal litigants before you. There isn't a Khalif before you. There isn't a Kafir before you now. We are equals. And you must dispense justice with impartiality and without fear. The words you find in the letter to Malik Ashtar that we discussed yesterday. Qadi Shureh instantly says the case is lost because Ali has not proved his claim. Without a stir he moves out of the court. And the moment he moves out of the court, the Jew catches hold of him and says, Ali, this is your saddle. It never was mine. But I just wanted to see that under your Khilafah, how is justice administered? And there has not been one government before yours, and I do not see that there will be one after you, in which the Khalif appears before the court with an enemy on the other side, and justice is dispensed in such a fair manner that books of history would not have recorded such an incident before. That is the way in which he presented justice all through. Not that he received justice himself, but his concern all the time. His concern all the time was to ensure that the word of Allah prevails. I wish to rush through some of the other excellences of Imam Ali alayhi salam that are cited by Sheikh Abbas Kummi without detaining you, because these are qualities we have already discussed. For example, various ayats of Quran that have been revealed in his honor. The various verses from the Holy Prophet, various ahadith, that is an excellence. What other companion or human is there for whom verses of Quran have been revealed in such abundance? Indeed, in the set of books Qadatuna, one finds a complete volume. I think it's volume 3. An entire volume running into about 800 pages, in which only those verses are discussed which were revealed in honor of Imam Ali alayhi salam. So it's a volume by itself, not something that can be discussed in a sitting. And likewise with verses in his honor, charity and generosity are so well known that one finds Hal Ata singing songs, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطُّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ. He did not even give food for giving, he gave food for the pleasure of Allah. وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. If I'm giving you these loaves, I'm only giving him for his sake. From you, I do not want any reward, I do not want even thanks. لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ jaza'an wala shukura. So please take this food and go. Don't even wait to thank me, because it's not been given to you. That is the level of his generosity. That is the, and so this is Quran. And the ayah of innama waliyukumullah, the way he gave away his ring in ruku, so that there should be no complaints that there was nobody in the mosque of the Holy Prophet who would not give to somebody who asks. But these praises of his generosity not only appear in Quran and in the hadith of the Holy Prophet, were made even by Muawiyah. Muawiyah said, sitting in his court in Damascus, not in Siffin, sitting in his court in Damascus, Muawiyah says, if Ali, and I swear by one in whose hands is my soul, that if Ali had a house full of gold, he would not keep one ignot for himself. All of them would be given out to the poor, the orphans and the widows. Can I ask him why he didn't do so himself? And even if he didn't, why give the money belonging to the widows and orphans in corruption? But even he could not restrain himself from saying this in respect of Ali. That is what Muawiyah said for the generosity of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and his charity. Piety is a quality we have already discussed. He would not even eat more than 2 loaves of barley, that also dry. And when Kulthum on the eve of the 19th keeps 2 things for his iftar, not even dinner, for his iftar, keeps with those 2 slices milk and salt, he says, oh my daughter, when have you seen me eat 2 things with my 2 loaves of bread? Proving as it were that he never did all his life. Worship is the next quality given. Fantastic worshipper that he was. Indeed, insofar as namaz is concerned, it is said that he used to recite 1,000 rakats every night. And people didn't believe it. Allama Majlisi in Bihar reports that because people didn't believe that he would recite 1,000 rakats every... Indeed, another hadith says that it is not 1,000 rakats, it is 1,000 takbiratul ihram, which means minimum 2,000 rakats. But when there was doubts, according to Allama Majlisi, a person went to the house next to Hazrat Amir only to count those takbirs, and next day reported that I have counted them and he has recited 1,000 rakats. And what rakats? Rakats in which he stands shivering before Allah, that I am accountable to him and I do not know how I will render my account, seeking forgiveness, fasting day in, day out, the du'as that he has taught. I just touched on Dua Kumail last night. Allahumma inni as'aluka bi rahmatika allati wasi'at kulla shay. What a fantastic way in which he seeks the mercy of Allah as he starts that dua. Not a dua we can discuss in these sittings, but one can see the piety of the person. And when it comes to munajat, his fantastic well-known dua, Allahumma inna as'aluka al-aman yawma la yanfa'u malun wala banun illa man atallah biqalbis salim. And he proceeds to set out 6 verses of the Quran, one after the other, each of which starting, Allahumma inna as'aluka al-aman, oh Allah, I seek refuge from you, I seek your shelter. The first being from the day on which neither children will help nor wealth. That was the depth of his piety and worshipping. Indeed, can I finish that by saying only one thing which will not need any more to be said about his worship? Insofar as ibadah is concerned, the veteran is the 4th Imam alayhi salam. And if we get a chance to discuss him, we will surely discuss that aspect of his life, insha'Allah wa ta'ala. He is therefore known as Zainul Abidin, the ornament of worshippers. He says, and this is reported by Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, he says that once my father called me up and said, "Oh my son, bring me that parchment of my grandfather Ali, in which he teaches how to worship Allah and what to say in the worship of Allah." And Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam says, I knew exactly where that parchment was, picked it up and gave it to him. He opens it up, reads it, throws it back to his son and says, "Ya Muhammad, where is the person who can worship Allah as Hazrat Amir did?" That was the extent of his worshipping, that a Zainul Abidin would say, where is the person who can worship Allah as Hazrat Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam did? Hence, set out as a complete quality of his, forgiveness. We've seen it again and again. We saw it in Jamal. Those fellows who harassed him so much, the moment the battle is over, he says, "You are all forgiven." And Abdullah bin Zubair is specifically sent by Aisha, and he says, "You also are forgiven. Go." In Siffin he did that. In Jamal he did that. In Naharawan he did that, even before the battle. That all of those who have caused all this problem, even to children and women, are all forgiven. And his conduct, husn khulq, his mannerisms were such that one finds that friends and foe, both of them spoke so highly of him. Of course, Sawhan, the one companion of Imam Ali, whose mosque stands just near to Masjid al-Sahla in Kufa, he says Imam Ali would sit with us as though he was one of us. Where was his gigantic knowledge, his eminence? And yet when he sat with us as friends, he sat like one of us. We could not feel that he was in any way different from us. Umar bin Khattab, on his deathbed, when he tells Abdurrahman bin Rauf that call Ali also as a candidate, he says he is a person of charming manners and high conduct. These are the words of Umar bin Khattab. Muawiyah is sitting in his court, says to Qais bin Ash'af, "Oh Qais, Ali is a person who has such a smiling face. He is so pleasant all the time." And Qais replies, "Oh Muawiyah, that is because he follows the footsteps of the Holy Prophet. That is because he follows the footsteps of the Holy Prophet." Qualities well known on which I do not want to detain you. Next excellence is that he was the first Muslim. The next excellence is that his eloquence. Indeed, Muawiyah, upon the martyrdom of Imam Ali alayhi salam, says, "Today we have lost." One would have expected there would be jubilation in the court of Muawiyah. But Muawiyah sits on his throne saying, "Today we have lost the most eloquent of orators in this world." There has not been an orator as eloquent as Ali, either before or after, not only in his delivery of the address, but in the contents of the material that he uttered. That comes from Muawiyah. Of course, Nahjul Balagha is proof of that today. The next eminence is miracles, which obviously I cannot touch at this point in time. Inshallah, we shall see if we can touch on some of them tomorrow. And prophecies. His prophecies went over numerous aspects. 13th quality of his is fulfillment of du'as. If he sought dua from Allah, the dua was known to be complied. And finally, the 14th quality that Sheikh Abbas Kumi puts forward is his loyalty to the Holy Prophet. Unblemished loyalty from the day he was born to the day he left the world, which we will discuss tomorrow, inshallah, as to how he left the world and what he said to us as he was leaving the world. But that indeed was his life. And one of his prophecies was, and he was not even scared to say this, one of his prophecies was that his son Hussein would be murdered in Karbala. And as I said yesterday, on the way, not yesterday, but when we discussed Siffin, on the way to Siffin, he paused and showed people exactly where Hussein would be slain. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam was slain in exactly that position. People who noted that spot went back to it on the day of Ashura. Indeed, he prophesied the deaths of so many of people. Indeed, on one occasion, he was sick in Medina. Umar and Abu Bakr visited him, and when they visited him, the Holy Prophet was there. They said, "Oh Rasulullah, we have come to visit Ali, lest something should happen to him and we should miss him." And the Holy Prophet said, "Oh no, he will not die on a deathbed, on a bed like this. He will be assassinated. And when he will be assassinated, the color of his head will color his beard." And that is exactly what happened. Blood flowed down onto his beard. But Imam Ali alayhi salam kept on saying, "That will be my condition." And on his deathbed he said to Hussein, "Oh Hussein, this is how I am dying, but my head is on my body. Oh Hussein, what do I say about your body? What do I say about your body? They will not only kill you, they will sever your head from your body. But oh Hussein, they will not be content with even that. They will not be content with even that." It is reported by Bibi Zainab alayhi salam that on that day, immediately after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Fizza comes over to Bibi Zainab alayhi salam and says, "Oh Zainab, what do I tell you? I just had the news that reports have come from Ibn Ziyad that horses be driven onto the body of Imam Hussein and it should be trampled into pieces. 40 horses are kept on one side, 40 horses are kept on the other." People kept coming forward. Fizza says, a tribe comes forward and says, "Oh Umar, Ali Akbar, the son of Hussein, is from our Kabila. If his body is trodden like this, what face do we show in our Kabila?" Shimr, a person like him, comes forward and says, "Abbas is from my tribe. You cannot trample on his body, Umar." And the bodies of Akbar are withdrawn. Body of Abbas is withdrawn. Similarly, the body of Habib is withdrawn because the Kufans come forward. The army of Yazid, of Hur, comes forward and said, "Umar, Hur was our leader, but oh Zainab, not one person came forward to say, 'Oh Umar, Hussein is the grandson of my prophet. Oh Umar, Hussein is the grandson of your prophet. Oh Umar, Hussein is the grandson of the prophet of us all. Don't let any horse trample his body.'" 40 horses driven from one side to the other, and another 40 from the other side. Imam al-Zamana says the result was that his body was cut into pieces, irba and irba. There were pieces and pieces into which the body of Imam Hussein, the sacred body, was. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. رحم الله من يقرأ الفاتحة.